And I believe as a Democrat that those perceptions of America are fundamentally wrong. And that's why I'm proud to be a Democrat. You hear a lot of Republican candidates talking with moral indignation about our debt and our deficit, even though with a Republican president, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate, we paid for 2 wars, a huge new drug benefit, and a tax break for the wealthiest Americans on a credit card. I wonder when they're going to talk about the real moral outrage. Those 50 million people in America who didn't have access to health insurance before Barack Obama and Democrats took on an issue many people said could be solved and passed Obamacare. I wonder where their moral outrage is with 46 million Americans living in poverty and the budget they passed in the House this year, Leonard, that would cut $135 billion from food stamps. I wonder where their moral outrage is when people like my opponent and Paul Ryan actually believe that a young woman who is raped by her father or her uncle and becomes pregnant should not have a choice in carrying that child to term. That's what I think the moral outrage is that we need to be talking about.
That's what's made this country great, and I probably wear it out, but you know, I spent a lot of time in the Army, and I was green as they could get when I went in the Army. I got drafted down here at KRNT Induction Center. Hello, friend, for a letter from my friends and neighbors. Greetings, you've been selected. Well, it wasn't such a bad thing. And I learned a lot. I learned and I learned and I learned. And I learned one thing, I'll just put it real simple. That sergeant, that captain, that colonel, that general, they cannot take an objective. They don't have their troops. That's the working people of the armies. And they got to have those troops, or they can't do it. They got to feed them well. They got to have good morale. Got to be paid well, and they got to be cared for. And that's what we ought to be doing for the working families in this country. The middle class is what's made this country great.
But we spend time with the part that says wherever 2 or more are gathered. I told a bucket will come out. I told Mayor Vergosa, he was meeting Bob, and I said, you know, everybody in this room and people across Iowa, when Bob and I are together, it is me with this business, and it's Bob who's got the money. So even the mayor was nice to him, so that was good. We've got the bucket pass. So let's get to it. Turn the lights off.
Okay, folks, guys, is your wife's hands in your wallet? If it's not, put it away. It's a perfect gift. I have 159, 155, but you've been in 155, looking at 155, but you've been in 155, all in, all time. Sold it. $350 right there. Woo, thank you.
So we can build an economy that gets back in the business of making and creating and innovating, and that we export our products and services around the world, rebuilding the middle class out, not top down. That's the Democratic way, that's the American way. So I leave you with this challenge. I guess I should say there's one other number that's kind of important, and that's 0. That's the number of women who've been elected to Congress, the Senate, or the governorship from this state. I'm pleading with you to make that number 1.
There's a lesson here for all of us, I think. Sure, the president had a bad night a couple weeks ago. Yes, the polls went down, but he's a professional. He dusted himself off, he got back in the game in a big way. And in these final 17 days, we need to be that same kind of political professional. Because I believe that successful campaigns aren't about mood control or magic. They're about deciding to fight back. They're about saying, to heck with the polls, getting down to the nitty-gritty of getting our votes in. I like the slogan that the Brits embraced during the worst days of the Nazi bombing in World War II. Keep calm and carry on. So our job, mine and yours, is to keep calm and carry on, knocking on doors, making calls, talking with our neighbors, doing the thousand nuts and bolts things that add up to victory on election day.
Senator Harkin, and I love that you went through the list. You know, what people don't realize about those first 2 years with Nancy Pelosi, and a Democratic majority in the House and Senate, and President Obama, it actually was the most productive Congress since the Johnson administration, since the 1960s. The Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the war on poverty. So let's look at what President Obama and the Democrats accomplished. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, healthcare reform, ending the war in Iraq, winding down the war in Afghanistan, tough new protections for consumers, tough new rules for Wall Street, saving the auto industry and reviving American manufacturing, putting us back on a path of prosperity and growth. Unemployment back to its lowest level since the president took office. When I say Democrats, I mean it. Because over the last 4 years, Republicans have dug in their heels and opposed almost every common sense policy or program that end Medicare as we know it and stick our seniors with the bill. They want to make it harder and harder for women to decide what happens to their own bodies. Social Security, Medicare, healthcare, civil rights, voting rights, women's rights, those are the vital elements of the America's Social Compact. The hard-won achievements that make our country more decent, more fair, and more just. These are the things that Mitt Romney and the Republicans have pledged to tear down, to shred, to put an end to if elected. You know, they would repeal the New Deal, Social Security, and Medicare. They'd go after voting rights and women's rights, workers' rights. If they had their way, Mitt Romney and the Republicans would repeal the 20th century. But we're not going to let that happen. You see, America's back on track and heading in the right direction. We do this because we know that when we speak those hollowed words, we the people, it means every single one of us. This is the America that we hold in our hearts. This is the America we'll be voting for when we re-elect President Barack Obama and send him back to the White House, right where he belongs. I want to thank you for allowing me to come and spend a few minutes with you. I want to thank you for inviting me to keynote this dinner. I know how important Iowa is to the nation. I know that Iowa in many ways is so reflective of that American big heart, of that American generosity, of that American notion that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you ought to benefit. And that if you work hard and you sacrifice and make this country better, your kids will have a better life. That's who we are. It used to be. That's who we were, both Democrat and Republican. But today they've gone so far to the right. They're so out of the mainstream. They've forgotten how we got here. You know, Governor Cuomo in his great speech talked about that wagon train that crossed the Great West. And to paraphrase him, you know, when a wagon train broke down in the tough terrain and during those struggles, people didn't say you're on your own, see you later, sorry, you're just a taker. What they said was, jump in my train. Get on my wagon train. We'll take you all the way west. That's who we've always been. That's the America that we're so proud of. That's the embracing America that's a beacon of hope and light to the world. I believe that Iowa represents those notions of generosity and fairness. And that's why I'm particularly honored to be here. Thank you so much. It's great to be with you. And I know we're going to win in 2012. We're going to win in Iowa. This is where the firewall is, everybody. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you very much.
Immediately after JJ, before you go home tonight, downstairs in room 320, our friends at the Iowa Energy Forum, joined by our friends at the Building Trades, Iowa Fed, and IBEW, are hosting an after reception. Pop and beer and wine and a chance to win a free iPad. So come on down there. Thank you to them. We have our work cut out for us. I want you to travel safely, whether that's tonight or in the morning. I want you to rest well. And tomorrow, it'll be 16 days. Let's go get them. Thank you.